The outgoing Minister of Gender, Labour and Social Development, T. Amongi, your colleague, the incoming Minister, Lieutenant General Henry Tumukunde, all the outgoing Ministers of State. We have Honorable Peace Mutuzo, who has been Minister in charge of Gender and Culture Affairs. We have Honorable Gidudu Dominic Mafabi, the outgoing Minister in charge of Elderly Affairs. We have Honorable Balam Barugahara, the Minister, outgoing Minister of State, Youth and Children Affairs, and now Minister of Local Government. We have the incoming ministers. I think I will introduce them once the formal ceremonies of handover have been completed. But I wanted us to begin with an introduction, especially of the heads of departments, the representatives from the affiliated institutions, and I would like to recognize the lordships who are here from the Industrial Court. And then the heads of departments, honorable ministers, outgoing and incoming, honorable members of parliament. I did make mention of the justices here of the Industrial Court. The head judge is my Lord or Her Lordship Linda Tumusime. She is the head judge at the Industrial Court. This information is also captured in the detailed handover report that the Honourable Minister will be presenting, but it is important for us to remind ourselves that under the national framework, the Ministry's interventions are designed to contribute to the realization of the country's Vision 2040, the National Development Plan 4, and the NRM Manifesto. We have already aligned our planning frameworks to speak to these overarching frameworks. Most importantly, under the NDP4, we contribute to two programs. The key program of human capital development, where together with education, with health, with water and environment, Ministry of Gender, Labour and Social Development contributes to human capital development. And in our case, we are looking at our population right from the point of entry of a human being, conception up to exit. So we are talking of the children, we are talking of the youth, we are talking of the mothers and the fathers, we are talking of those that gain or find their employment. We're also talking about the elderly, the persons with disability. All these are a focus of this ministry. And we have also aligned our strategic plan, copies of which I think will be shared. We have aligned these to the NDP4 and tenfold growth. I've circulated, especially to the incoming honorable ministers, the alignment of our departments and how each of those departments contribute to the tenfold growth. Also emphasizing working together as departments of the different departments of the ministry that contribute to each of those strategic areas that have already been mapped out. The structure setup, as you've seen, we have 6 political leaders, the ministers led by the Honorable Minister of Gender, Labour and Social Development, and maybe next, we are only next to office of the Prime Minister in terms of the size of the number of ministers assigned to this particular docket. Finance comes next with 5, and there are a few others that have 4 ministers. The technical team, as you know, is headed by myself, and until RAPEX, the rationalization of government that took away the position of director, we had 3 directorates under this ministry. A directorate for social protection, a directorate for labor, employment and occupational safety and health, and a directorate for gender and community development. You could say that the structure of this ministry is aligned to those 3 thematic areas. Even if you removed the word director or directorate, you would still have this ministry configured along those 3 thematic areas: social protection, labor, employment and occupational safety, gender and community development. And under these, we have 10 departments, each with a head department, and one of the 10 is the support department of finance and administration. But we have a number of semi-autonomous institutions under this ministry. You've heard them introduce themselves. I think it's only NSSF that is not here, but the Industrial Court is represented, the Equal Opportunities Commission is represented, the National Cultural Center, the Special Interest Group Secretariat, and several others, as well as a number of programs and projects. I've provided the incoming ministers information about who the heads of departments are, your contacts, so that from this point going forward, if any of them needs to reach you, it will be easy for them using the information I've provided, as well as the mapping of the semi-autonomous institutions and the departments to which either they report or the departments that support their operations. I've also mapped some of the flagship programs of the ministry and the focal points or the program managers who, again, in case the honorable ministers need information, they'll be able to reach them and engage them. Within the detailed handover report, information about each of the departments, the programs under those departments, the projects, that information has been made mention of the terms, the roles and responsibilities of the ministers. We've had a discussion where the senior minister and the outgoing minister will again discuss this matter further of the roles and responsibilities. But I've also made some mention on the key routine activities, including the business of cabinet, the business of parliament, the meetings that we have within the ministry, including the ministers and PS meeting, the top policy meeting, Other meetings that the portfolio ministers will be holding with the departments under their direct oversight, and then the media engagements and other meetings that may come up, including international or regional engagements, with mentioned some of the meetings of the UN, the International Labour Organization, the African Union, the Commonwealth, African Community, the Regional Ministerial Forum, UNESCO, and so many others. Ladies and gentlemen, I've emphasized to the honorable ministers we are committed as a team to support them and to always act and operate in a transparent and accountable manner, and emphasize the need for us to continuously share information on policy and the regulatory frameworks, appreciation of the chain of command, employing a consultative approach in doing our business, teamwork and mutual support, courtesy and respect for each other, and effective communication at all times. And I would like to remind the outgoing minister had insisted that before any business gets to her or to the senior minister, that business ordinarily should have been discussed at the portfolio level. And there is evidence of concurrence or consensus having been generated at that level before the matter gets to the senior minister. We are going to encourage that. I have provided information on the funding to this ministry, to the incoming team, in a very summarized and user-friendly form, and highlighted the funding we get from government of Uganda, from the consolidated fund, and the off-budget support, because we have partners that we work with and who support a number of our programs. And also emphasize the fact that although we may seemingly have a big budget of 532 billion, really almost 95% of that budget is ring-fenced. It cannot be used for operational purposes. Out of the 532, for example, 203 billion for the next financial year is money that is for the GROW project. The GROW project will be ending in December 2027. But we also have 90% of that budget being subventions. Once you have netted off GROW, the balance, 90% of the balance is money that is earmarked for the semi-autonomous institutions and agencies. Industrial Court, the Special Interest Group Secretariat, UNCC, the Culture Center, and then you have programs here including the WEP, Women Entrepreneurship Program, and YLP. And about 2.43 are wages and pensions. Again, those are also ring-fenced. And then non-wage expenditure, we are left with only 5.4% of that budget that has to do work of the ministry through the offices of the ministers, through the departments that we have here, and pay all the allowances. So the breakdown with the particular details that we all need to know have been shared. Some of the key outstanding issues I have drawn the minister's attention to include the celebration that we have tomorrow, no, the day after tomorrow on Friday, the World Day Against Child Labor. which will be commemorated in Mayuge district. The Honorable Minister in charge of labor, where child labor falls, but also it is a concern for the Honorable Minister in charge of youth and children affairs. You are expected to learn swimming from the deep end by straight away plunging into the water with a function we have in Mayuge on Friday and a briefing at the media center. I think after the handover, we'll have an opportunity to brief the Honorable Minister about this commemoration. Child labor is becoming a very big challenge, and Uganda, actually Ugandan products, stand the risk of being locked out of the international market because they claim we are using children to produce coffee, and many of these things we are selling. So it's a matter that we need. The issue of a meeting with the NSSF board to discuss their, which the Honorable Minister has to approve by end of this month. But we also have pending business in Cabinet. Their papers we had submitted to Cabinet. They had already been cleared by the Cabinet Secretariat, but by the time Cabinet, the former Cabinet dissolved, these papers were pending. And we were advised we have to recall them. They will have to be given new numbers before they are considered. One of them that is of great importance is the National Employment Policy and Strategy. That paper was deliberately deferred because they wanted a full cabinet with probably His Excellency the President personally in the chair before they discuss this paper. But also there was an issue which the Honourable Minister may talk about of minimum wage, which they said we need to resolve before we have this paper cleared. We have the culture policy. It is also pending before Cabinet. His Excellency the President was in the chair when it was presented. He made comments. He gave us some reference to consider when revising that paper. The revision has been done and the paper will be ready soon. The revised equal opportunities policy is also pending, the Labor Unions Amendment Act, and a paper on the state of affairs within the juvenile justice institutions, the remand homes, the reception centers. All this is business we are going to pick up and others and make sure that the new team carries this through. Alignment to the overarching planning frameworks, streamlining externalization of labor to mitigate illegal migrations and to strengthen monitoring of migrant workers abroad. This is always a sore spot for us. No matter the explanations that are given, we'll always get back to the issue of the migrant workers and the conditions under which they move and work. We launched the labor market information system to provide real-time information on the labor market, but its full operationalization has been a bit slow. We need to strengthen apprenticeship, internship, graduate volunteer and Juakali programs and link these with other relevant job creation interventions or youth economic empowerment programs. The main report talks about these and we'll be able to discuss with the incoming team. Culture and the culture and creative industry is gaining prominence in terms of addressing the challenges of the young people. And we have this year received a boost in terms of funding, which will continue into next financial year, and there are a number of interventions. Honorable outgoing minister and incoming minister, you raised issues about the ongoing Venice Biennale, where There is an exhibition that is going on, again, mainly supporting the work of the artists. Honorable Peace Mutuzo, before cabinet was announced, had already gone with the team to Venice, and we will be able to follow up all the pending matters. It is a joint effort between ourselves and Ministry of Foreign Affairs. You also raised issues about UNCC redevelopment. That is something we are going to follow up. There are issues with the cultural institutions. There are those for gazettement that we need to follow through. The most urgent one is that of the Banyole, which had already been cleared by the Honourable Minister, and a letter written to His Excellency the President will brief you about all these and any contention within the other institutions. There is the issue of the street children, the ghetto youth. The incoming minister, I remember reading amongst the areas you promised to address conclusively is the issue of the street children. We have a comprehensive paper that we have developed, which we need to take through to finance for funding. There are issues to do with normal gallery, which was taken over by State House, and the State House controller was tasked to work on a compensation arrangement where Minister of Gender would be compensated and normal gallery elsewhere, and several other issues that I've highlighted. Amongst the other outstanding issues is the operationalization of the National Single Registry. We are setting up a National Single Registry under NUSAF 4. That project is under Office of the Prime Minister, but the most important thing about this National Single Registry is that it will help us improve the targeting of beneficiaries of support from government under social protection, and also to avoid people receiving support from different programs of government, because we'll develop a database that will tell us who is benefiting from, for example, who is benefiting from YLP, who is benefiting from SAGE, who is benefiting from all these programs of government, to avoid what they call double dipping. So we are setting up that single registry. And we're also revising the National Social Protection Policy. We have just gone through a midterm review of the GROW project to determine how we conclude the remaining 1.5 years of this project. And I think the key one that we need also to follow up together is to engage Minister of Finance, Planning and Economic Development on Cabinet's directive to increase payment to the older persons from the current 25,000 per month to 35,000, and lower the age of the beneficiaries from 80 to 65. This was one of the last, among the last decisions of Cabinet, but unfortunately in the budget for this coming year, we could not have funding provided by Minister of Finance, and we need to follow this through and come up even with workable options in case Finance says we cannot increase your budget from the current 120 billion for SAGE to, I think, about 360, 400 billion that may be required to increase the beneficiaries from 300,000 plus to approximately 1 million. So these are discussions that we are going to have. The rest of the paper is simply highlighting what the minister's entitlements are that we had captured, but we'll be able to revise these once the head of public service shares with us your letters of appointment and the entitlements in those letters. So, Honourable Ministers, outgoing and incoming, I would like to conclude by appreciating the team that we have worked with very well up to this point, led by Honorable I asked colleagues to give me their perceptions about how we've managed with this team, and what they've shared with me is interesting about this team. Just allow me one or two. To Honorable Mungi, they say your impact speaks through the lives of Ugandans changed under your leadership. Your tenure has left an enduring legacy in advancing gender equality, culture preservation, creative economy, and social inclusion. Honorable Gidudu. Honorable Gidudu, there's an even better one. Honorable Gidudu, you offered consistent and dependable political leadership. We acknowledge you as a leader whose calm presence and steady way. We acknowledge Honorable Gidudu as a leader whose calm presence and steady way of working brought reassurance and hope to older people, proving that thoughtful, smooth governance can be a source of dignity and confidence. Honorable Peace Mutuzo will be long remembered as a leader who made equality non-negotiable. Consistently standing for women's rights and ensuring that fairness and dignity were embedded in every decision. What do they say about Honorable Balam? Recognized as a leader who kept the door open to all meetings and meeting every person who came forward, listening with respect and ensuring that government was never distant from the people it serves. Honorable Asamo, they thank you for being a leader who never stood aside when work called, consistently stepping in, taking responsibility, and ensuring that nothing important was left undone. Here, this came from the professional safety and health. Cannot take for granted the passion and dedication with which you took charge of your docket, made time to meet OSH staff, and arranged meetings with various MDAs and several other comments. I hope I've covered all the ministers, all our ministers. We want to thank you most sincerely for having walked this journey with all of us. I speak for colleagues from the departments. I speak for colleagues from the institutions affiliated to this ministry. And you've left an indelible mark that cannot be washed away. And we welcome the new team and commit to continue with the good work that has been done with our ministers, our outgoing ministers, and pledge our loyalty to you and to government. And I say this for God and my country.